Black Myth Wukong forced out of Game of the Year. Is it because he's a monkey? No monkeys allowed in my Game of the Year. Excuse me. Monkey game. I'm so glad my neighbors can't see me. Hear me? Debatable, but see me? No.
Now, ever so often, there's a game that comes out that meets and exceeds the expectations of the players. It blows our minds. It's so good, but for some odd reason, it doesn't meet the same expectations for games media. Our interests aren't aligned. Our perspective.
It's almost like they're biased. I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's almost like they have a bias.
Are not necessarily the same, and there's conflict in that. And I think that Black Myth Wukong is one of those games. And don't get me wrong, the game reviewed very well. It got over an 80 on most review sites. But with that said, up until the game's release, and then even after the game's release, it was under a constant barrage of negative criticism that had nothing to do with the game whatsoever. And in that, the game never really got a fair shake. At least not.
Yeah, but Game of the Year, like, what is Game of the Year? It's a popularity contest. Plus, it's held by IGN, is it not? Like, they get snuffed, obviously.
In my eyes. Now, 2024 has been an absolutely insane year for games. There are so many great games to play, and if you're one of those people that are out there that are like, gaming is dying, let me be the first to tell you, you need to play more games, or just not the same ones over and over again.
I disagree. Play whatever you want. If it doesn't meet to your standards, if you want to play the same game over and over, that's like power to you, man. If you enjoy playing Elden Ring for the 1500th time and you want to play a different build, chef's kiss. That just means it's a good game. But there's also not a lot of good games that came out this year. Like, it is very much drowned out by a lot of negativity. Indie games are doing good too. Yes, absolutely agree. Yep. Donkey had a really good release for an indie game that he supported.
The list, once I get into some of the Game of the Year contenders, it's going to blow your mind because I honestly forgot how many games even came out this year. This isn't about the award. It's about the recognition that these studios deserve, the reward they deserve beyond just making money. It's making sure that it's known why these games are great so that other publishers and studios can see, hey, this is what it is. This is how we make a game that the players love. And it's not, again, just not the money. But already I'm starting to see games media want to preemptively push back about Black Myth Wukong being in the Game of the Year category. And we're going to talk about that. Before that, today's sponsor. War Thunder is a massive free-to-play, large-scale multiplayer game where you can fight anyone from around the world using ground vehicles, aircraft, helicopters, and naval vessels from the mid-20th century to present. The game is available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. What truly sets War Thunder apart is its commitment to realism and immersion. The graphics and sound design continually evolve, pulling you into battles that feel authentically intense. You're not just playing a game, you're experiencing the heart-pounding chaos of combat. Whether you're barreling through enemy lines in a tank, providing crucial air support, or engaging in thrilling dogfights, the freedom to choose your combat style is up to you. The game features various technologies such as night vision devices, smoke screens, and even nuclear explosions, which can turn the tide of battle in unexpected ways. A recent update called Dance of Dragons is a game changer. Thanks to this update, you can now take command of a variety of French combat vessels and take control of two iconic American aircraft, the A-10 Thunderbolt II attack plane and the F-111 tactical bomber. In addition, there are many other combat vehicles that are available and dozens of improvements at the request of the community. So are you ready to join the fight? Download War Thunder today for free using the link in the pinned comment or description below. If you're a new player or returning after a long break, you'll score some exclusive rewards. Rentals for the P-40E-1 aircraft and M4 tank, unique skins, and 100,000 silver lions. Don't miss out. Thank you, War Thunder, for sponsoring this video. We have had a monstrous year in games, and it's wild to think that it's not even...
I watched Asmon play Wukong, also Tenma. I thought it was very enjoyable to watch, especially the little cutscenes that allude to, like, you know, Chinese culture. This was a beautiful, like, little graphic. This is very nicely done.
Over yet, with more releases right around the corner. This is about the time of year that Game of the Year candidates are being discussed and debated, and this year we have a lot of difficult choices to make. Dragon's Dogma 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Helldivers 2, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Prince of Persia The Lost...
Was Dragon's Dogma really that good? I thought it was alright. I wouldn't say it was Game of the Year. Mid as fuck? Yeah, I thought it was fine. Like, not terrible. Like, it wasn't dog shit. It was just, eh. Yeah, I'd say Game of the Year has to be like a 7 or above.
Crown, Persona 3 Reloaded, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Silent Hill 2 Remake are among the highest scoring games that we've had from reviewers this year. That's 8 games when only 6 games can be qualified as candidates. We're not even mentioning the stockpile of games that were scored just under that, with titles like Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Unicorn...
Tekken 8? Tekken 8 was fine. Like, I don't... What a weird choice for a nomination. Like, no offense, I love Tekken, by the way. This is coming from a person that played Tekken since they were a little kid. But Tekken for Game of the Year? I don't know.
Overlord, Space Marine 2, and more. 2024 has been packed with games, but only a few titles are deserving
Persona,
of being crowned
Fantasia.
King of the Year. And for many players, that game is Black Myth Wukong. James Throtton of The Gamer penned an article titled, "If Black Myth Wukong isn't nominated for Game of the Year, fans are going to be insufferable." James writes, Black Myth Wukong is a very good action game, taking the Souls-like formula and stretching it into a boss rush format. Its popularity even surpasses that of its inspirations, garnering millions of players in mere days. It's a genuine contender for the Game Awards, but with how stacked 2024 is shaping up to be, competition is fierce. Polygon recently updated its Game of the Year frontrunner list, while the Golden Joystick Awards announced its 6 nominees for this year's PC and console Game of the Year categories. Black Myth Wukong is nowhere to be seen outside of smaller categories, and so TikTok right now is...
The game was not rigged from the start. If you say so, I don't know. If you have to say it wasn't rigged, then it's probably rigged.
It's a deluge of angry gamers declaring that games media is corrupt and that it's all a part of some wider conspiracy.
Look, if you have to spell it out, I don't know. It's just kind of like... It's like a little kid being told off after you can smell the shit in their pants, and you're like, hey, did you take a fat shit in your pants? And you're like, no, I would never do that. No. If you think about that, that's just not true. Like, game journalists saying that they're not corrupted is such like it's like, you think gamers are stupid? I mean, we are, but like, that's stupid? I don't know.
The game was not rigged from the start. It's just been a very, very competitive year. This week alone, we've had Silent Hill 2 Remake, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, 3 critically acclaimed hits that are all vying for the...
Yeah, but IGN gave Dragon Ball a 6 or a 7? What did they give them? Dragon Ball... Sparking Zero IGN rating. What did they give him? A 7, yes! 7, by the way!
Spotlight with equal fervor. Earlier this year, we saw the launch of Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Tekken 8, Helldivers 2, and Dragon's Dogma. That's not to mention the stellar year it's been for indies. Black Myth Wukong, while good, we scored it 4 stars, just doesn't measure up to the greats. Hell, it's not even the best Souls-like this year, as that award goes to Elden Ring Shadow.
But it's a DLC, no offense. Like, a DLC shouldn't really be nominated for a Game of the Year. Yeah, totally not biased, by the way.
Shadow of the Erd Tree. For those that have used Wukong as fuel in a culture war since before it was even released...
Oh my god, a culture war. A game about a mythical monkey from China is a culture war. What are we doing, man?
Its absence on these lists is an attack. It's a ploy by games media for reasons, even though it has an open critic aggregate of 82. There's one big argument cropping up across...
And they all cite each other, by the way. They don't talk about, like, Steam reviews or anything like that, or Steam population numbers, they all reference each other and then try to speak like they are speaking the truth. That's why peer-reviewed studies have to be peer-reviewed by other peer reviewers, because if you start referencing yourself, you're kind of like regurgitating like your own opinion over and over between like a bunch of people. You have to have outside opinions too. Yeah, like what are we really smoking? This is like, they reference Polygon, they reference Open Critic. What's next? IGN. Well, IGN said the Shadow of the Erd Tree was really good, but it's like, okay.
Reddit and slowly replacing all the goth girls on my For You page as to why it deserves to be nominated. It sold well. James, I will speak for those that you are arguing against. Black Myth Wukong doesn't deserve to be nominated because of its sales. It deserves to be nominated because it is the first ever release from a studio, an inexperienced studio, that made a stunningly gorgeous game with great combat, a compelling story, beautiful music, incredibly detailed and culturally accurate environments, some of the most unique boss encounters I've seen in a game like this, and themes that we don't often see in games. It was original, fresh, and most importantly, fun. And while many of the games that were mentioned in this article are incredible games, they are just copies of previous...
And again, I only watched Asmon play through the first like stream that he did, and I was very much enjoying watching it. I don't really like watching games, to be completely honest with you. Asmon just was like playing the game, and it was fun. And then I watched Tenma play for a little bit. I watched her try and beat a boss, and I think Lumi as well, but... like, the one that I sat through the most, the first chunk of the game was like, damn, that's really enjoyable. Like, the story, the first boss, like, it kind of sucks you in right away. It did remind me of, like, playing Elden Ring for the first time. Like, you kind of just get thrown in. It has more story and more substance to it, because Elden Ring, you kind of just, like, figure it out as you go along, right? But it was just really good. Really good.
Titles or even remakes. The industry should be celebrating and rewarding studios that work.
And then I am so sick of remakes and shit. I'm not gonna lie. I really am. And then nominating remakes for Game of the Year. It's like, yeah, Final Fantasy released from 15 years ago, remade into like into a port of PC for PC. Yeah, obviously it's gonna be pretty good. Like, why are we even nominating that shit? I don't think remakes should be on the list of, like, it should have its own category. Maybe, like, remake of the year or remake of the last 5 years. Like, that's fine. Last of Us Remade getting nominated? Oh my god, man. When did that shit come out? Even Final Fantasy has more of a reason to be fucking nominated. At least that game was old, man. Was there a total random remake like RE4? I kind of disagree, because Resident Evil 4 was already a really, really beloved, really good game that came out, from the PlayStation 2? Like, it's already really good. Maybe remake of the decade? That would be a really fun nomination. Maybe, like, you know, having like, contenders for that stuff. I just don't get it. Resident Evil's GameCube 2005, but yes? Are you sure? I swear I played it on PlayStation. Maybe I'm cooked. I don't remember. Maybe I did play it on GameCube. I just don't remember.
Work this hard, take a risk, and deliver something altogether new. And we're not even mentioning how the game sold at a fair price.
That was a poor...
I'm so exhausted by this. Do you want to know why players think there's some grand conspiracy? Do you want to know why they think there's some media bias? Well, you're not doing yourself any service when you try to minimize the game at every given turn. You called it a Souls-like. It's not even a Souls-like.
I was about to say that too. Like, it's not really a Souls-like. Oh, everything that has a guy with a weapon and you're beating a boss is a Souls-like. Okay, Witcher 3 is a Souls-like then? Like, you have a guy with a weapon that can dodge roll and use magic? Yeah, like, great logic there, for
actually
sure.
Did the same thing in a video too, so I'm actually not going to take points away from you for that, but I don't understand where this idea that this game somehow became something that the culture war LARPers had latched onto even before its release, because to my recollection, the only thing that I can remember is Games Media were the ones that were pushing these allegations from IGN against game science through.
Well, they also called the Chinese game developers racist and sexist with no substantiated evidence. Yeah, some poorly mistranslated shit that can't really be translated into English, which is arguably even more racist to begin with. Like, isn't that insane? They mistranslated it, made it look bad because Chinese language is very metaphorical based. It's like actual racism. They can't even see it for themselves.
Different articles, and then also at the exact same time, there were a ton of people pining over tweets that were completely mistranslated. If anything, it was games media that was dragging this game into the culture war, not the other way around. It's just not true.
You're one of those culture war LARPers in this man's eyes? No, I don't think so. I think if I talk to him, I'm really not, though. Like, I am not a game dev journalist that regurgitates other people's opinions over and over. I have my own opinion. I listen to everyone's opinion, and I make my own. These people always say, oh, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I do think there's merit in DEI. DEI used to be a good thing that was like developed from like women, people of color, and workplaces. It's just deviated so fucking far that it's not good. It's not good for video games anymore. I know, and then people are going to say, oh my god, Alana, I can't believe you just said that DEI has absolutely no merit in this current year. It's like you can agree to disagree, but like, what the fuck? I mean, like, I've said it. I've said what I said. I'm a real gamer. I regurgitate Asmon's opinion instead. That's right. It's not black and white. I do think there is places where there are people who are discriminated against. Like, it does happen in the real world. It's just we've pivoted so far that it's like it's almost eating itself and it's ruining it for everyone.
The entire time before this game's release, and this is the reason why I say the game didn't get a fair shake, is that every single time this game was brought up, it was always with a qualifier. Black Myth Wukong is a fantastic action game, but there was this report from IGN that was also based on some mistranslations, but we don't really care about that much.
There it is.
Anyway, they said some things, or they do some things we don't necessarily agree with. Black Myth Wukong, we're giving an 8 out of 10, but but
there's not enough women in it. Forcing diversity creates racism and sexism is supposed to be combating. Guys, I'm talking about workplace DEI in the 1950s. Guys, please do not take this out of context. DEI, this wasn't even labeled DEI as like a thing back then. I'm talking about when women were literally not allowed to be in the same workplace as men and they had separate offices. That's what I'm talking about. Like, there's a reason why things like that had to be slowly integrated so that we came to this society now, where we are at now in this, like, day and age in 2024. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, we saw some tweets that were also mistranslated, and we didn't really like exactly what they said or the things that this company stands for. It was always like that. The game never got a fair chance, at least in the media light.
Nope.
And that's not the same for every other game that was out there. All the rest of the games never had any of this kind of stuff. And
well, it also made a lot of people who are quote unquote far right gamers. I wouldn't call them far right gamers in my opinion, or quote unquote incels that they like to label, where they're like, oh, this game's racist and they hate women, even though they don't actually do that and they never said that in public, like, at all, and it was all exaggerations and mistranslations. I'm gonna go play that game and I'm gonna shit on everyone who disagrees with me. It brings out the worst in everyone.
Worst part is again, all of these things were alleged, never even proven, yet they were touted as fact. They were included in game reviews, game review videos, and reviews. You don't think that's too far? What do you think is the purpose of that when you put that stuff into an article other than to minimize the game and hopefully steer players away from buying it? That's the point. You want to understand and know why players think there's some grand conspiracy? Well, it's not hard for them to jump to that conclusion when it's staring them 2 inches from their face.
And then also saying shit like, oh, well, you shouldn't buy the game because it was made by communist China and it was approved by the CCP. Like, bro, NetEase owns the majority share for Riot Games, yet people love to eat Riot Games slop because it's a good game. Nobody ultimately actually gives a fuck. Like, why are we even making this an argument? They just want to play a good game. People still play League, they still buy their skins, Tencent still gets their nice big fat share of money that they also pay to the government because they exist under the CCP, right? Just, they make good products so that we don't have to play games. Like, what's the counter argument here? It's like, no, you can't play this game. It's a good game, but it's owned by bad people that we don't agree with.
On the topic of the game's sales, the writer continues with, it's hardly a compelling defense, but sales figures have long been used as evidence that supposedly anti-woke games like Wukong are...
Wukong is not an anti-woke game. It's a game about a fucking monkey from Chinese mythology. My brother in Christ, it's not about anti-woke. This is why I fucking hate it when people are like, oh my god, Alana, you're so anti-woke. You're a right-wing grifter. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying things that that make people want to agree with you. You have alt-right commenters and you should delete their comments. And oh, my brain fucking hurts when I fucking think about it, that people are actually unironically so fucking retarded that they can't think for themselves and they want other people to think for them. Wukong is not a fucking anti-woke game. They don't even talk about politics. It's about a fucking monkey with a staff.
Or what your everyday gamer really wants.
In
reality, it was a success because the game was marketed to the enormous untapped Chinese demographic. It was only made worse when streamers were supposedly sent guidelines asking them not to mention feminist propaganda or politics.
Because that's their game. Then don't stream it. Who's the fucking dumbass that streamed it and nothing happened to him? There was some guy that streamed Black Myth Wukong that said, oh, I'm going to keep talking about feminist propaganda and politics with Black Myth Wukong. Nothing happened to him. He's probably just blacklisted. Oh, is Moon? Yeah, Goon did that, huh? Nobody gives a fuck. They didn't reprimand him. They didn't cancel him. The video game company didn't say anything bad about him. They literally put him on a list, and they're probably never going to give him a pre-release game or beta or whatever ever again. No big deal. No one gives a fuck. He's allowed to do that. They're just not gonna, give him free stuff or endorse him. That's that's their prerogative. They're still letting him play the game.
Black Myth Wukong became the poster child for the most toxic, vocal gamers on the internet, and everything since its launch has only worked to further that image.
And again, the identity politics of toxic fucking gamers. They're loving this monkey game, so every single person that buys this game is a toxic fucking gamer. I bet you a normal dad that saved up $60 for this game, that has 4 kids and works in the hospital, just played this game and enjoyed it and didn't even think about all the people that were like, no, we need to have anti-woke. This anti-woke game is so bad. That piece of shit that bought it doesn't matter that he voted liberal. The average Joe Schmo doesn't give a fuck about your fucking opinion.
Wukong was a monumental hit. There's no denying that. Within days, it skyrocketed to the 7th most played game on Steam of all time, with a peak concurrent player count of 2.4 million players, but numbers aren't everything. Banana, the viral clicker game that generates Steam Marketplace items, has a higher 24-hour peak than Black Myth Wukong right now by over 100,000 players. Avengers, Infinity War, and Spider-Man No Way Home are among the highest grossing films of all time, but they didn't walk away with the pinnacle Oscar.
We're actually unironically using Oscars, the Oscars, as the pinnacle of award winning. The Oscars are a popularity contest for people to circle jerk over it. It hasn't been an award ceremony for 50 years. No one gives a fuck. There's plenty of actors that got snubbed in front of other actors. It's literally it's a popularity contest. It's high school. No one gives a fuck. The Oscar viewership has also gone down exponentially since 20 2010s. Like, nobody actually gives a fuck. They all just beat each other off and give each other awards. It doesn't mean anything. And you're using that as like an example. Amazing. Truly amazing journalism.
For good reason. Sales do not equal quality, but Black Myth Wukong has been weaponized in a culture war ever since it was announced, and it doing well has only been used as ammunition to argue that games media is out of touch with gamers.
And I have to comment on this. Someone said in chat, hold on, let me scroll up. Something about anti-woke, where is it? It was a very good point that they brought up. Hold on. To be fair, anti-wokers who only spoke games to own the libs are also annoying as shit, but at least they're not making games and annoying the general public. Yes, but the average Joe, again, will not see the, anti-woker saying, like, on Twitter, typing up, like, saying, oh, fuck this, like, fuck you, you stupid bitches, I hate women. Like, those people, they don't see that either, and the people who buy the game are just enjoying the game for what it is. Some people don't realize that you are not as terminally, you are the percentage, the minority that goes online every day and seeks out this shit to read and watch streamers talk about this stuff. You are a minority of a minority. You are not chronically online. Not everybody is like us, like watching the stream or watching YouTube videos talking about like Black Myth Wukong outside of like going on YouTube and looking at a tutorial on like how to beat a boss. Like it doesn't compute. It's just a good game. Cry about it. Like, why are we even talking about like the culture war of Black Myth Wukong? It's a babe about a monkey, man.
Not being nominated for any Game of the Year awards, it's October, it's likely going to be in the mix for a lot of sites, and still could be up for many categories at the Game Awards, is just more fuel.
By the way, didn't they say there's no women in this game? I'm looking at 2 women talking in the background.
Prove that point. It hasn't upset fans because they think it's a good game deserving to be among the best. It has upset fans because they see its absence as an attack in their one-sided feud. As we edge nearer the big celebratory end-of-the-year closer that is the Game Awards, we're
celebratory my ass. I want to see the Worst Gamer Awards. Didn't Aspen talk about how he's gonna, now that he's detached from OTK, he wants to like have a Worst Gamer Award because he doesn't have to like actually give a fuck about ripping into other people's games. Yeah, the Shame Awards. There we go. Yeah, he said he's thought about doing it.
You're going to see this outrage spiral. Awesome. If Black Myth Wukong doesn't get a nomination for the main award, it has a few competitors to shut out in Best Action, its fans will see that as a personal slight. We're witnessing it already, and I've seen my colleagues get attacked over the past year just for covering the game. If fans are this riled up by an award ceremony, many
You put out your fucking stupid opinion, people are gonna harass you. I get harassed every day, I just don't fucking say anything. I don't give a fuck. Genuinely, like, no one gives a fuck. You're a game journalist, cry about it, keep posting, no one cares. I'm sure there's food critics that get shit for giving people bad reviews. It's called an opinion.
Claim they've never heard of, or a list of frontrunners that means very little, then I can't see being snubbed from the Game Awards going down well. Man, the lack of self-awareness when saying that the sales of the game were used as ammunition in a culture war, while you yourself are focusing purely on the sales of the game to minimize the entire discussion around the game. That's interesting. It's convenient to go after the outrage of those who can't voice their concerns properly because the writer is absolutely right. Sales does not mean a game should be Game of the Year. If sales were the leading factor, then Baldur's Gate 3 should have lost to Hogwarts Legacy, or Call of Duty should have won for 5 years straight since...
Yeah, actually, good point. Yeah, absolutely. It was
the best-selling game since 2017. There are a slew of other factors here that should be discussed, but the writer and other media pundits aren't taking the time to discuss that. They're just hand-waving the angry gamers and throwing it out into the bin with the rest of the culture war commentary. Now, my question is, why is it that on the topic of game sales, the Chinese player base is used to minimize the overall impact of the game's sales, success, and popularity?
Because China bad, that's why. Yep. I'm sorry, that's the culture war. Yep. China bad.
Again, to quote the writer, The game was a monumental hit. There's no denying that. Only to follow it up with, but it succeeded because there was an untapped Chinese market of players. Like, those players don't even count.
What do you mean? Players, too. Nobody's ever made a game like this before. Like, it's very rare. This is the first full-blown Chinese mythology game that I've really heard of that wasn't like there was an MMO that was from China that everybody really liked, but eventually it just kind of died out. Like, it's definitely not very common, and it was also really well made. Oh, Dynasty Warriors, that's actually a really good point, but that's a long-running series. And that's been around for a long time. I still remember my friends played that on the fucking PlayStation. Silk Road Online, too. Yeah, there's plenty of MMOs that existed, but this is the first really good single-player game that I've seen personally.
Why aren't we having a discussion on why, censorship aside, Western games haven't been able to penetrate that market as effectively as Black Myth Wukong, especially when there are that many players that could make that much of an impact on a game's sales? Black Myth Wukong is just as deserving as any other title that could go up there for Game of the Year. That's not saying that those games aren't worthy either. They are. But the thing is that it just feels like the coverage around this game, the discussions around this game, have just felt off. Purposefully.
People will still buy the game if it has some sort of merit or it's well done well enough to capture an audience. Look at Genshin Impact. Made by a Chinese company. Nobody gives a fuck that it's made by a Chinese company. There's still people that consume and spend hundreds of dollars every single day giving them money because they enjoy the game. You think they give a fuck about anything else? They want to play Genshin, they want to look at their fucking cute waifus and beat off to them. Like, what?
Dishonest in a lot of ways. Black Myth Wukong was incredibly popular. It was incredibly popular with the Chinese because it was the first game that really represented their culture and history in a way that could bridge the gap between nations. Players around the world loved it. They connected with it. And because of that, it brought down cultural boundaries. We don't see that very often. It should be something that everybody should be cheering for and happy for. That is the power of this hobby. That is what it can accomplish at times, but we're losing sight of that.
Because they want to be right and they want to make everyone else view that they're the bad guy. I just can't stand it, man. Like, everyone but me is wrong, and also you're a racist if you disagree with me. That's the classic rhetoric of, like, mainstream game journalism.
I think this all loops back to the fact that game science did not bend the knee in fealty to games media when they started hurling accusations at them, baseless accusations at them, and demanded an answer. They said no comment. That has nothing to do with the game or anything else right now, and they didn't feel that it was in good faith, and they just ignored it entirely. And I think that games media as a whole took offense to that. They didn't like that too much. They don't like it when their power and position is questioned, when their authority, or what little they have left of it, is questioned. This should be a game that we should be celebrating because of the fact that it broke down cultural boundaries. Beyond that, it was a game that was absolutely gorgeous. It was coming from a studio that this is the first game that they were releasing.
Yeah, and also it wasn't buggy. It was actually like good value for money. It was long. Like, why? Like, why are we trying to shit on a game just because a bunch of people that you don't like enjoy it? Isn't that the point of art? Like, everybody should be able to enjoy it, or, you know, a lot of people should be able to enjoy it. You look at a piece of art hanging in a museum and you say, damn, that's really good art. You shouldn't think to yourself, oh, is the artist like, is the artist from Mars? Like, I don't like those damn Martians. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make it not specific because it will come across as really racist, but like, is the artist like this skin color? Oh, I don't like it now. It's like, I know people who do. Yeah, well, those people are fucking horrible, right? Like, you can't even appreciate a good piece of art or a good piece of poo. Good piece of poo. Good piece of food just because someone else made it. Like, if it tastes good, then it's good, right?
It came out relatively polished, fresh feeling combat, boss encounters that we've never even seen before with attack stylings we haven't seen, environments we've never been in, atmosphere that was absolutely fantastic. They went out and they scanned real life statues and architecture to try to make sure that the game had the most, authentic rendition possible, and they delivered on it. The game was absolutely incredible. The stop motion animations, the anime cutscenes, and a bunch of different style of art. It was...
Yeah, they had a stop motion, did they not? In one of the scenes, they had a stop motion cinematic. It was beautiful. We watched it on stream. It was stunning. I was like, wow, dude. And then they showed the behind the scenes too. That was so cool.
Great. It was such a good game. But all of that isn't being discussed.
Super creative.
Instead, it's all locked behind social politics.
Yeah.
Black Myth Wukong was nothing short of a revelation for me. The game was a breath of fresh air in a world that is drowning in microtransactions and endless live service models. Much like Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring, it was just a straightforward video game that focused on delivering a great experience without the baggage of modern gaming trends. Selling it at a fair price really made it.
And I love the gotcha that like people like to say, oh, well, Baldur's Gate 3 is woke. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a game. You get to have sex with everyone you want. And if you don't want to, then you can just kill everyone. It's not that fucking deep. Stop coping. I have almost 200 hours in the game. If you tell a character, no, I don't want to have sex with you, they leave you the fuck alone and they never bother you again. And you can also work them if you want to. Like, that's such fucking cope.
Shine as a prime example of what players have been craving. A complete, immersive experience that doesn't feel like it's constantly trying to upsell you. Like I said before, honestly, it's just a damn good video game. I'm not a professional reviewer, but playing Black Myth Wukong was an awe-inspiring journey for me that I can't stop thinking about. From the moment that I started, I was blown away by its visuals, its gameplay, its music. Every single boss fight felt exhilarating, and I found myself savoring every single moment rather than trying to just rush and finish the game. It's a game that didn't just entertain, it resonated on a...
That is so fucking cool. A mantis.
A deeper level, reminding me why I fell in love with video games in the first place. Now, with that said, the other games that are out there are genuine contenders. I don't want this video to come off like Black Myth Wukong should be the only game of the year and no other game deserves it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was absolutely phenomenal. While I know that there's some people out there that think the game doesn't deserve a spot because it's a remake, it's...
Please, for the love of God, yes, stop. Final Fantasy is a classic. Like, it's like... I don't think that movie remakes should be nominated for, like, movie of the year. It's like that... It's like retelling the story of Cinderella for, like, the 15th time. Like, yes, Cinderella's a great story. It was written, like, fucking 100 years ago. Yes, obviously it's gonna be good because it was written well. Like worthy remake? Yeah, maybe. Again, I've brought this up. Make it a remake of the year edition, like a category or something.
Not. It's a full-on reimagining the combat, the storytelling, how events play out, the music, the atmosphere. All of it makes for a game that's deserving of the crown. Helldivers 2, despite its controversies, was for all intents and purposes the game to beat this year. It sold tens of millions of copies.
Yeah, but then they shit the bed. I'm kind of like on the fence about this because even though I didn't play it, I remember reading a lot of drama surrounding it. I think that it was a really, really good game, but then they took a big fat dump all over it. Nah.
Felt like a trip back to the old days of Halo 2 and Halo 3 post-launch where friends are asking when you're going to get on, you're staying up way too late playing the game, and all you could do was think about what was going to happen in the game next. I just recently started playing Metaphor ReFantazio, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's likely this year's game of the year. It makes huge improvements in turn-based games. It has music that has no right being as good as it is. The set pieces and art direction go from breathtaking to nightmare-inducing, and it has character writing and stories that show quality, care, and the authenticity that players have been complaining for years that game studios can't touch without ham-fisting those themes in. It is the perfect example of how to do topics like diversity and inclusivity the right way. I just want to emphasize that this isn't about...
Asmund did say that it was a breath of fresh air to play this game over Dragon Age. Even though he skipped pretty much all the cutscenes and he finished Dragon Age or whatever, He said that this game is so much better.
One game deserving a title over another. Every title mentioned has its own merits and fan bases, and they're all worthy of recognition in their own right. Black Myth Wukong, however, stands out for its originality and its cultural significance, but also for how this game has been mishandled by the media. It's a testament to how hard game science worked on their game and the fresh perspective that they bring. After all, that's what games should be about, creating experiences that are resonating and bringing us together, not just the ones that fit into a narrow definition of success that is made up by a handful of writers.
Well, also, like, what is China think of this? Is this their game of the year? Do they have a game of the year award system? I'm sure they do, and they have their own biases, but, like, this is the most disingenuous one by far. Like, having Western game journalists give it an 8 out of 10, the same score as Concord, because they just don't like it for their own reasons. Like, okay.
You know, I'm starting to realize that access journalism doesn't work in both ways. You know, because they want to make sure that they're trying to stay in line, that they're doing their best to be able to hold on to their contacts, their insider information, get their keys and their codes, and make sure that they can hold on to their jobs and their relevance. But on the other end, when it comes to some of these smaller studios and publishers, they desperately need the help of games media to be able to be noticed, to get in the front of the eyes of players in the first place. Get their trailers out there, get some articles written and things like that, get them in the algorithms and whatnot. And I think that
well, they also do this in Hollywood. They suppress, like, really good indie movies because they don't want certain topics to be published. Like, it happens everywhere, unfortunately. They want their narrative.
These journalists that are out there view that as an opportunity for them to throw their weight around. That's where they get to be the bully this time. They get to push everybody else around and tell them the way that it's going to be. And I think that Black Myth Wukong stood in opposition to that, and they didn't like it too much. And it might not be all of them. I'm not going to say it's every single one of them. There's some damn good journalists that are still out there. I know you guys are probably shaking your heads. No, there's no.
Well, the vast majority are bad.
No way. Believe me, they exist. I have a few of them that are out there that are some of my favorites. But with that said, I think that's the case here for Black Myth Wukong. You know, it's not about sales and it's not about scores. It's about fairness and image.
Name one. Who reviewed? There was a site that reviewed Dragon Age, and they actually gave a pretty honest, unbiased opinion. I forget what their name was. They gave it like a 50 or a 60, and people really didn't like that because everybody else gave them it was Skill Up. Yes. Skill Up gave them an actual unbiased normal review. Yeah, they didn't shit all over it, and they said it wasn't like a 1 out of 10, but they gave it a 5 out of 10. And they were like, yeah, this seems pretty fair.
And I just do not think, under any circumstances, that Black Myth Wukong was painted in the same colors as some of the other games that we've seen this year. Even games that had controversy.
Rare.
Pal World, I mean, that game got absolutely shredded by games media. They hated that game, even though the players liked it. But even still then, I don't feel like the game got dogged on this hard. Going back, Helldivers 2, they went through their entire controversy. Games media didn't even want to touch it. They didn't even want to talk about it. They just brought it up slightly and then walked away from it. Just let the gamers be mad. And I think the reason... I'm
surprised you didn't bring up the fact that they tried to rig the nomination list with numbers. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't talk about that. Or was that, like, unfounded? I feel like everybody kind of talked about it and then nothing happened. Because nobody really gives a shit. The IGN nominations, where they rigged the numbers.
And why is because they just didn't see it from our perspective. They didn't care to see it from our perspective. Which then brings me around to this idea that when it comes to a game like Black Myth Wukong, or maybe even like Space Marine 2, probably less so on that one, I think that there are some writers, some journalists that are out there that see that these games are being used in a culture war, that they are diametrically opposed to whatever the side of that culture war is, and they do not want to give them a win under any circumstances. And that does affect their review at the end of the day. They don't want to hand that over to them. They know that they're going to use...
And this always circles around back to identity politics. You start swinging one way too hard, then the pendulum will eventually swing back the other way. You will find some fucking game that's gonna be really out of pocket, and people are gonna really enjoy it, and people are gonna be super pissed about it. They're gonna say it's a horrible game, that it's for, you know, white male gamers, and they're gonna say all white male gamers are bad, and that every person who's a minority that enjoys the game is a Uncle Tom or whatever. It's just like, God damn it, dude. It's a fucking video game.
Use it as ammunition against them, and they're never going to hear the end of it. And as a result, well, points get docked, the image of the game gets smeared, and this is the result that you get. I don't know if that's going to be the end result of all of this, but it looks like it is. One thing the reviewer, the writer, did get right, there's a lot of games to be vying for a spot as Game of the Year this year. A lot of games deserve it. We've had some awesome games release, and there's still more that are right around the corner. Stalker 2 is, I think, next month. We just had...
God, I really hope that game doesn't suck. I really hope not, but... I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't want to make judgments. I don't.
Call of Duty
make judgments.
Black Ops 6 just came out recently. That game got reviewed really well. It did really well. The players seem to really like it, which is crazy for a Call of Duty game, but I mean, stranger things have happened. So who knows? Maybe there's something else that's sleeping in the wings that we don't know that's going to come out and get a bunch of 10s and 9s. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to share the video with your friends. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what game you think is going to be Game of the Year, or what game you want to be Game of the Year.
Stalker 1 was pretty mid. I thought about banning you. I thought about it, but you're allowed to have a dog shit opinion. How dare you say Stalker Shadow Chernobyl is a mid game? Suck my nuts. You're wrong. You probably think Concord is Game of the Year.
And yeah, outside of that, my friends, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe.
It's crazy.
Make sure to catch me in the next video. Catch me live on Twitch, and I'll check you guys next time.
Peace. Peace.
Family.
This is me in my chat. Family.
Again, make sure to check out War Thunder using my link in the pinned comment or description below. With new vehicles, a massive new update, and bonuses for new and returning players, it's the best time to play the game.
It's great.
Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video.
It's literally the Stalker that I played the most with my brother, and I was scared shitless. It was great. No, you're allowed to have a bad opinion. I disagree, though. A lot of people disagree with you. Anyway, I hope they don't shit up Stalker 2, man. That's gonna suck. I don't know. We'll see. I will reserve judgments. I saw the trailers. Trailers are deceiving, but anyway, I need to be really, really bad. Too long didn't read. Game journalists fucking suck. Biases can't exist, but if you have a really strong bias, people will start fucking calling you out on it.